Page 61. Om Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha Kena prana prathamah praiti yuktaha Keneshitam vachamimam vadanti Chakshushrotram kau devo yunakti This particular Upanishad, most of the Upanishad, whichever is the first word that it begins with, it is usually recognized with that name. Which Upanishad? That Upanishad which starts with Isha. Isha Vasyam Idagam Sarvam. So therefore, it is known as Isha Vasya Upanishad. Why the first word is Isha Vasyam Idagam Sarvam. Similarly, what Upanishad are you learning these days? Why it is called Kena-Upanishad? Because it starts with Kena. Om Kena. Keneshitam. Kena Ishitam Patati Preshitam Manaha. So why the Upanishad is named that way? Very simple nomenclature. No too much of hangama here. The first word, it starts, therefore that Upanishad is known by its first name, Kena. And it is in that category of Upanishad, therefore it is called Kena-Upanishad. The nomenclature is very clear that it is the Samaveda Talvakar Shakha ninth chapter or ninth bhaga, in which there are 4 chapters. The Kena-Upanishad has 4 chapters in it. The ninth bhaga of Talvakar Shaka. Now, this particular first mantra is unique to our Sanatana way of learning. Here, the scripture is not focusing on trying to give injunctions and say that thou shalt do this. There are no commandments. See, in the other religions, they usually classify something as a religion in the Western academia if they can answer 4 questions. What are the 4 questions? The first question is, who is your God? Define your God. Second is, what is the scripture that identifies and explains this God? Third, who gave that instruction, book of instruction, their particular religious book, and their prophet? And in Hindi or in our local languages, we have translated it aptly. We call it as mata. Mata, matam. Mata means an opinion. Opinion of a certain individual. The prophet is that individual. So each one of those Abrahamic religions have a particular prophet. Moses, Muhammad and Jesus, whom we also call as Jesus. There are 3 different prophets. And then, to understand who is the follower of this particular mata abhipraya, of this particular opinion, they have given certain commandments, that when you follow these commandments, you are called as the, recognized as the follower of that particular mata, that particular religion. So these are the 4. And in some Western academia, they consider Hinduism not as a religion. So instead of fighting with them, saying, how can you say that this is the largest religion, how can you disqualify it, discredit it? Thank you. Why thank you? Because ours is not a mata, is not an opinion. Even when the Avatara Purusha, like Bhagavan Krishna himself, has to explain the science of this wisdom, he also seems to be quoting from the Upanishad. Kathopanishad, Mundaka-Upanishad. Primarily, these are the 2 big cows that he has milked thoroughly in explaining Bhagavad Gita. He himself has quoted. One of our Swamiji puts it across in a very funny way. He says, earlier he was stealing butter and milk and cream. Now he has stolen from the Upanishad. The habit doesn't go. But in more sincere approach, it is that even that avatara has to give this from the basis of Upanishad. And he says, wherever it is his opinion, idam matam me, this is my opinion, my take on it. Having given you this knowledge, what you end up doing with this knowledge is your choice. There is no insistence, there is no pressure that has been said, therefore, or I have said it, therefore. Wherever there is such insistence, it leads to dogma. It leads to very crude way of living, wherein there is no investigation, there is no inquiry, there is no questions asked. But here, the student has approached the master. The master is sitting in his simplicity in some cave, in some Himalayas, in some corner of the forest, and the student, by the word of mouth, there are no big banners, hoardings, posters, pamphlets, leaflets, nothing distributed saying that there is a Mahatma, come please listen. The student, by word of mouth, has come to learn of this great grand master who is sitting in some seclusion, has reached that master, and after having paid their namaskars and sitting down in that some complete seclusion, the student directly starts with the question. So it is always a dialogue between the Guru and Shishya. There is not a commandment that the scripture has said, therefore you have to follow. And in some of these commandments, if you question them, then you are out of line. If you inquire into why and how, you are not in line and you may lose your life for it. But here, the seeming beauty here is the student approaches the teacher, and having approached, in Kena-Upanishad, the Shishya comes with dry twigs. Maybe because that Guru is having a Gurukula and they need fire stick for various purposes. But even more deeper, it is to impress upon the teacher that just like this wood which was once full of sapidity, full of moisture, and now it has become dry, similarly, my mind which was full of the vyavaharika, samsarika, sapidity, moisture, having pursued it, having gone into that path, having checked it out, now I am very clear that I don't have rasa for that anymore. Samsara has samsara is a myth, I have understood it. Samsara is nissara. Just like these dry twigs, I am also prepared, my mind is also prepared for this knowledge and wisdom. And Guru, in his most detached compassion, lovingly looks at that Shishya and encourages that Shishya to ask questions. Now, in order to ask questions, there has to be an environment of safe, secure environment, that your questions will not be mocked at. They could be corrected. They could be further fine-tuned. But rest be assured that you will be encouraged. And thus, in that kind of a environment, the Shishya, surrendering himself unto that teacher. Surrendering does not mean that there is an unquestionable environment. Surrendering is because we have in our day-to-day life communicated it to our surroundings in such a way that if somebody questions what you have decided or taken a direction with, if somebody questions, that means that individual is not surrendering, is not agreeing with you. In fact, we take it to a further wrong, deeper channel. We in fact even conclude that if somebody questions you, they are questioning your authority, therefore they are insulting you and your position. How can you ask such questions? That is not our way of life. Every question needs to be encouraged, especially in the spiritual path, and they have to be catered to, they have to be answered. That does not mean you ask any kind of silly, stupid questions. You go to a music teacher, you ask the music teacher with regards to that particular topic, that particular subject. You don't go to a spiritual master and talk of politics, economy. They may be well versed at it, but that is not the purpose. So probably the teacher must have looked compassionately, encouraging the student to ask the question. And student bhi aisa, that his opening statement itself is mind-boggling. केनेशितं पतति प्रेषितं मनः केन प्राण प्रथम प्रैति युक्तः केन ईशितां वाचम् इमां वदन्ति चक्षुः कौ देवो युनक्ति. What an amazing depth. Here the student seems to have been very, very perceptive. He says, we all speak. We all see. We all have this interaction with the world outside. There seems to be a mechanism with which we are interacting with the world. The organs of our perception are perceiving, each one dedicated to its own particular field of knowledge. They don't interchange. For the taste, it goes on to the tongue. For seeing something, there is chair, there are people, there is mic. I can see it. The seeing is happening. And beyond all of this, there is a mind that seems to be gathering all this information, and I have paid attention to the entire process. See, most of us don't even get into this kind of mindset to ask these questions. Why is it that through the eyes I am able to see? Why is it that through the ears I am able to hear? We only demand that why are you not paying attention while you are seeing? Why are you not paying attention while you are listening? Can't you see? Seeing happens, listening happens. Mind also seems to be gathering and functioning. There seems to be a mechanism behind all of this. That the organs of perception and action seems to be immobile, non-functional when we are in deep sleep. They don't have any kind of functionality. Why? Because the mind is also asleep. All these things become functional only when there is mind being functional. How can you so clearly ascertain that? Maybe because the organs of perception action are non-functional, therefore the mind is non-functional. Why are you concluding that the mind is not functional, therefore these organs of perception and action are non-functional? This is I have observed. Even when the mind is awake, mind is ready to be functional, when it is absorbed and engaged in some deeper thought inside, the outer perceptions seems to not happen. Like you are trying to have a conversation and that person is with wide open eyes. Seems like looking at you, but also feels like looking through you. Because when the eyes are looking at you, the focal point of those eyeballs have to be near you. But it is looking at you, but the focal point seems to be somewhere behind. So you check. और क्या देख रहा है? And you are trying to converse, but that person is not responding. So I have found myself in such situations wherein the mind is available, the mind is awake, the mind is active, but it is engaged elsewhere, and in such situations the ears, eyes, nose, nothing functions. You have to seek the attention. Hello? Where are you? Are you paying attention to what I am sharing? Oh, sorry. Come on, tell me again. Many times when we are trying to speak, and when somebody asks a question, you answer, and after answering, inside the mind is like, what was I saying before this? You are trying to gather. You are trying to catch up because the trail of thought has been broken. When that trail of thought is broken, what is happening outside doesn't really matter, right? You are trying to catch up. You are trying to find that train of thought, reconnect with it. So there is something which is connecting with the trail of thought, something disconnecting with the trail of thought. There is something subtle happening. That when the mind is present, the organs of perception action are fully functional. When that mind is available and yet not connected with the organs of perception action, there seems to be no knowledge received through this, no action being performed. Sometimes when the mind itself is in a jumble, there seems to be connecting with a thought, there seems to be a disconnecting with the thought, lost in a thought, trying to find the right thought. Many of us, when we are speaking, we use certain words or we interject our sentences with ums and ahs. ओ मैं क्या सोच रहा था, ओ मैं ओ that what are you doing there? You want to speak, but the thought is not fully gathered yet. Maybe the concept is ready, but the words appropriate for that concept is not being chosen properly. So you are scrambling around to find the appropriate word. Sometimes it happens that when I am speaking, there is a certain word that will communicate it better, and I am like, what do you call this? And somebody, assists. Yes, that. So there seems to be a complete association. Sometimes there is complete disassociation. What is it that is associating? What is it that is disassociating? And when I take this breathing, the breathing also seems to have different kinds of functionalities. And all these functionalities seems to happen in a certain order, as though it is being instructed by, as though it is being ushered into that field of experience by something else. Kena ishitam patati preshitam manaha. As though ordered by ishitam. Preshitam. Prakarshena ishitam. Very well endowed with complete enthusiasm and power behind it. Something seems to power my mind. And when it is powered, the mind seems to move. The thought seems to move. When it is disconnected from that power, I am scrambling around. There is something that is connecting and disconnecting. There is something which is empowering and there is something which is not empowering. There is complete chaos. If we think that the organs of perception and action are working under the instruction of the mind also seems to be working under the empowerment of something. The beauty of this question is, the student has, हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना, जरा हटके. He started not just trying to master the skill of seeing, speaking, hearing. He's gone a step deeper, wherein the very processes involved in all this functionality, he's trying to identify what is it that prompts it to function in that particular way. बहुत विचार किया होगा इसने. Meaning, this individual student has paid attention to, inquired into, trying to identify. I see this sequence of things, but why and how is it being functional? I have reached a stalemate. I am not able to go beyond this processes that I can observe. But I can definitely, with certainty, identify that there is something that which is, I am not able to identify what it is. Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha. And the word also that he uses, he says, manaha patati preshitam. Patati means to fall upon. Literally, it as though is that my mind, my thoughts fall upon that object. Like on a Shivalinga, when you pour water, milk, curd, when it falls, it covers that entire Shivalinga. Similarly, this thought seems to go out into the world, covering up that entire object, perceives that entire thing and receives. But that is the functionality of the mind. What is it that is enabling to function that way? I don't think we have ever sat down to think in this line of thought. Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha. Kena prana prathama praiti yuktaha. What is it that enables my prana shakti to start functioning in a certain order? We breathe, we inhale, we exhale. And luckily, thankfully, it is not a voluntary action. How many times have we not forgotten the essential part of our life, which is to eat food? We were busy in some work. Usually at that particular time I get immensely hungry. My Madhya Pradesh is in chaos. Uttar Pradesh is demanding food. But when I am engaged into certain thing, I forget eating. Many times I have been engaged in such activity wherein usually, when I am not that engaged, I know at a certain time when I feel thirsty and I drink water. Sometimes I am so engaged that there is something that is happening, then suddenly I take a glass of water. Oh, it was thirst. Food and water also we get forgetful. Thanks to Bhagavan that he created the system wherein without food and water maybe you can still sustain yourself. Without breathing there is no possibility. and he has put it on an automated process. Then it happens. Kena prana prathama praiti yuktaha. It proceeds to function, the inhalation and exhalation, and not just there is inhalation and exhalation. When that inhalation happens, it seems like my entire system is energized. See, when we sit in a calm environment, a soothing environment is created, and the mind, when it usually gets into such calm environment, suddenly what happens? Right? It goes into sleep. And then suddenly you again wake yourself up to whatever was happening there. Right? So when the prana is not providing enough oxygen, what does the system do? It kicks in a certain system called yawning. Because the brain is demanding that oxygen. So we open our mouth, jrumbhana. We open our mouth, all the air available possible, you try to suck it in, so that there is oxygen provided to the brain, and when the brain is reactivated, energized, the system seems to be energized. What is it that is, like you are taking the breath in, but what is it that separates the required air and expels that which is not required? And when this happening, when lungs become weak, you get blessed by an amma. She is called asthamma. That you may have the capacity to breathe, but you are not having the capacity to expel the remaining air. You feel suffocated. What is it that prompts the air to bifurcate itself, and that oxygen, when it goes, it energizes the system in different layers in different ways? And that energy has to be provided, and that energy, whichever part of the body is functional, most active, it is sending that energy to that particular part maximum. If you are having a brisk walk, or you are jogging, you are doing some exercise, you have gone to the gym, you are lifting weights, you are doing the treadmill or the escalator, whatever those different instruments, your heart rate goes up. There is this beautiful mechanism that is happening. This body, the way it works, is an amazing wonder in itself. I was amused the first time I learned that within the heart, the chamber of that heart, it is fistful, that's it, this size. It has the capacity to produce so much of energy, joules, of electric current, that it rhythmically produces it, putting a shock into the system where it becomes functional. What is that external one called? Defibrillator. See, sometimes the mind gets jumbled trying to find an appropriate word. And therefore the external source is applied in there. And then it jolts and falls into the rhythm, reviving itself. Jump start. क्या क्या विचित्र चीजें अंदर होते रहते हैं. And this oxygen that goes inside, it distributes itself into various layers. Prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. Who is bifurcating all of this and sending, and what prompt, whose prompt, whose directive is this functioning? Such beautiful, subtle system is happening. There is somebody that is prompting, engaging, directing all of this to happen. Kena prana prathama praiti yuktaha. Keneshitam vacham imam vadanti. The speech process, a complicated process. If there is somebody asking a question, you have to hear it. You have to understand it. After having processed it, then you have to evaluate what answer has to be given. After the evaluation has happened, then you choose different set of right meaningful words to communicate that bhava with such spashtata that it has to reach to the other person, delivering the purport of those words which you meant has to mean to them. क्या खतरनाक चीज है ये? That I have to now visualize those words and the meaning of the words, understand that which I have the word and it has a certain meaning to me is the same meaning to you, and therefore when I communicate it, that which I know is the meaningful thing that I understand with this communication has to be understood by you in the same stance. Otherwise गड़बड़ हो जाएगा. You go to Kerala and you are trying to eat, and the person comes and looks at you and he says, "Chor." I say, "मैं नहीं हूँ." Because the Malayali chor means cooked rice. And for you coming from a Hindi background, chor means a thief. And then he will again irritate, "Chor." I said, "No, मैं नहीं हूँ." Irk in Telugu means irk. Irk ante మీరు తమిళ్లో ఆలోచిస్తున్నారు. ఇరుకు in Telugu means congested, narrow. In Tamil, iruku means exists, is there. And different languages, different words have different meanings. Same words, different meanings. We have to communicate it properly. Even after such process, the other person exactly understands it opposite. And then communicates it with their own mirch masala to the other person again. First time when I went to US, there is a university and the students there I happened to meet in a grocery store. And we got to talk with each other, and I told them what I do, they told what they are, which university. There were 6-7 students. So they were also interested. We can meet in our library or in our prayer hall. Every university has a prayer hall. So we can go there, we can reserve it. Can you come and speak to us about this Bhagavad Gita and other things? We would like to listen. So we decided to meet in that prayer hall. This was in SMU University, SMU, Southern Methodist University. So the prayer hall, I had to cross the gym. I was scared to walk through that passway. Why? The gym had these football players, usually African American, they look I myself am 6 foot. And to them I have to look like this. And they are muscular, big bodied. मेरी तो फटती थी जाने से वहां से. So I would put my head down, walk fast. 2-3 times I have gone through that passage, and these players, one of them looked at me and did this. I said, "What's up, dog?" मेरी तो बोलती बंद. So I came back. I called a student who used to come regularly. 10वीं 12वीं में पढ़ता था. And I said, I have to ask you to understand what happened because in India, when somebody says like this, it is like questioning. Why are you here? What is up? Kya hai? Like that is how we use this head shake. But there it seems this means, how are you? I said, how are you is fine. Why is he calling me a dog? कुत्ता क्यों बोला मुझे? So he said, no, Swamiji. Here the spelling of dog is different. D-A-W-G. Dog means, how are you, friend? वो मुझे कैसे मालूम हुआ? His bhasha is different, my bhasha is different, my understanding of the word dog is different, his understanding and communication of the word of dog is different. So when communication, I have to process it, be subtle enough to understand it, communicate it in such a way that the other person understands it exactly as what I mean by it. How many times do we not struggle with, no, what I meant is, why? The other person has understood it and concluded exactly different way. Many times it is opposite also. Because if the instruction or the communication is not understood exactly, you say, na kala artha mein hindi, mujhe waise laga, mujhe waise samjha. Therefore, while communicating, we ask, artha hinda. Did you comprehend what I wanted to communicate? Do you now exactly understand what I have communicated and what you are supposed to do? Now, so much of processing is happening. What is it that is enabling all of this process, without which even the speech becomes difficult? Kena ishitam vacham imam vadanti. Chakshuhu kau devo yunakti. Finally, he puts a name to this enabler. He calls him as Deva. One meaning of it is, it seems like there is some divine entity that which is enabling all of this. Or must have been quite perceptive that it says, there is something from inside which is illumining each one of these functionalities to function in their respective fields. Dyotanat Devaha, that which illumines. Chakshuhu kau devo yunakti. Even the eye functioning, there is so much of science in this. To do the same functionality as what the eye can do, you need a huge gadget. It needs lenses. There is macro lens, which is for close-up of small tiny things. And then if you have to take a wide angle, then you have to change the lens again. How much of the light has to be allowed through that lens into that film to be captured so that there is a meaningful shade of it, that which reflects what is seen is reflecting here. So much of science in it. The speed at which it clicks. If you have watched the old movies, black and white, mute movies, you would see that the entire movie is running in a funny pace. It is only later that they understood that, when they say FPS, 24 FPS, when the reel moves at the speed of 24 frames per second. So when you say 24 frames per second, in the old reels, not the digital camera, the analog camera, where you had to move the knob to click, when that movement of capture and rendition of it is happening at 24 frames per second, that is when the live action seems exactly as how we are interacting naturally. If it is 1 frame slower or 1 frame faster, then the rendition is not the same. But supposing you have an ordinary camera and you are in some kind of a sports event or a dance event, then it has to be increased from 24 to 30 frames per second. कैमरा को समझने के लिए ही इतना बड़ा साइंस है. All of this put in a tiny slot. अपने को तो आंख खुलते हैं पूरी तरह से. There are some human where their eyes don't open. In that little aperture of opening, so much is being put inside that it can see, it can perceive, it can gain all of that knowledge from the outside, process it, understand it, and respond to it. So in a college, when I was speaking, I said, I had a duster. So I said, if I throw this at you, what will you do? The one fellow said, I'll catch it. The other fellow said, I will move aside. The other fellow said, I'll duck. One fellow gave a very terrifying answer, I'll throw it back at you. From a big vastu to a small, tiny mosquito or that fruit flies. When they come close by, even that has been perceived. Don't we perceive? And when it comes close enough, dangerously close enough, you try to move, you try to shake it off. Right? Now in all this happening, when something is coming at you, there is so much of physics involved. What is the speed with which it is coming? If it is too fast, I may not be able to handle to catch it or play with it. Therefore I duck, I move away. One is the speed. What is the angle of that trajectory? So when something comes at us, a ball or a pen or something is coming at us, somebody has thrown it for us. Like the security, when I had to give the keys back to him, he says, Swamiji, throw, catch. So when I throw it, so it is coming, even the thrower cannot just throw it randomly somewhere. Has to evaluate what is the distance, what is the angle in which it should reach so that it reaches in a catchable speed. The one who is receiving it also is calculating all of this without any knowledge of physics. Now the eyes are reading this message, the mind is processing it, and then it evaluates it and directs the hands to go in certain angle, in a certain format, to be able to receive it, to be able to catch it. Now all of this functionality is happening in a small aperture called eye. And there is a lens, there is a cone, there is a retina, there is that display which inversely goes and then it digitizes it, and that signal goes into the brain and the brain understands what it is perceiving. कितना चल रहा है? And all of this, there is somebody that is making it function. Something is illumining all of this. So the student is not a novice. ऐसा नहीं कि कोई पेड़ के नीचे बैठा था, बैठ लिया, पूछ लिया. He has been evaluating every subtle, minute detail of every functionality happening. All this functioning is beautiful. All this is tangible. There is something which is not tangible, which is ensuring that these things function in their respective field. I am not able to evaluate that. A little attention to all of these details, I am able to grasp all of this functionality, interaction. But what is it that is engaging it, enabling it, making it sure that it functions in that particular fashion? कुछ तो है. What is that? So surely the student has conveyed, it is a very subtle question to ask. He is not asking the anatomy of physical body and its function. He is not asking about why it functions. He is asking, I understand its functionality. I understand the mechanics behind it. There is something else which is enabling it. How is that connected to all of this? Why is it not tangible? As much as all of these are tangible and I am able to process it, why am I not able to process that which is enabling all of this? A sudden sharp break, because beyond this prana, mana, there is something subtler, but what is it and how is it functioning, I don't understand. That is what I want to understand. The source. And when a teacher receives such student, whose very question reveals the depth of analysis. See, when the person is asking a question, that question itself reveals so much in the questioning module. See, many times when I go for the talks, apartment complexes, temples and something, we have questions. We will have question answer session. I don't know them. So I don't know their intentions, I don't know their intensities, I don't know their experiences. Right at that moment, I will have to grasp all of this purely based on what they are asking and how they are asking. There are some that ask question not to get an answer, but to reveal to the gathered crowd how much they know. They'll keep narrating all that which they know. There is no question in it. There are then those who ask a question and they preface it, I have asked this question to many people. The moment that question starts with that preface, I have already blocked it in a category and say this is not something that I should be answering. Why? They are not there for the answer. They are in love with their question that they are not ready to listen to the answer given. You try whichever kind of answer to be given, they say, सब कुछ ठीक है पर I don't think you have got my question. There are such questionable people. Then there are those that are all over the place. Sometimes the asking person itself does not understand that in that all over the place question that has been placed, there are at least 7-8 questions jumbled in. It's like the wool ball that has been knotted. So now you have the task of unknotting it, regularizing it, streamline it, prioritize those questions, rephrase those questions for them. Did I understand your question? Yeah. You have rightfully caught the question and prioritize it rightly. And then try to answer it. The question and the questioner, when they ask the question, there is so much revealed about their intention, about their perception, about their various experiences that they have gone through and put it in that question format. It shows the depth of it or the lack of it. Here certainly the student, the way he has asked the question, when a teacher finds such student, it's a moment to celebrate for such teacher. It's a value worth, time well spent. Why? Because the seeker has come seeking the right mode of questioning with the right attitude. And it's not like मैं ऐसे question पूछ लिया. He's done thorough research, come prepared. Therefore, that person's intensity behind the question keeps that mind open for the answer to be received. This is mango season, right? How do you know that the mango that you are going to take, there's a basket of it, the mango that you pick is worthy of peeling and eating? You also evaluate, right? First the touch. It is not hard. It is soft enough and yet not gooey. And then the next, you take it closer to your nostrils. It doesn't have the sour flavor, but it has some divine sweetness to it. इसमें मजा आएगा. Then as you peel, the color of it. It is not a pale light yellow, it is dark orangish yellow. बोल रहा हूँ तो मेरे मुंह में पानी भर रहा है. You evaluate. Similarly, looking at this question, the teacher has evaluated, understood where the student is coming from. Having understood where the student is coming from, what is their depth or understanding or maturity, now the teacher's job is to get to that level and start speaking. It cannot be that I deliver only in certain stance. Now you upgrade yourself or come lower to understand my answer. The teacher's job is to get to the level of the student and evaluate so that it can be answered at that level matching, so that the student understands what is being communicated and goes in the right direction. We'll see that beauty of answer also tomorrow. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ।